Welcome to Cinematic Recaps. This movie is called Death Wish. The movie is about Dr. Paul Kersey, an experienced trauma surgeon who has dedicated his entire life to helping save other people's lives. Following an assault on his loved ones, Paul decides to go on his own personal crusade for justice. The nickname the Grim Reaper is given upon Paul when he purchases a firearm and begins a bloody mission of justice in which he uses it to put criminals out of business. The movie opens in Chicago as two gunfight victims, a cop and a thief, are being transported to the hospital for treatment. When Dr. Paul Kersey arrives to treat the officer, the man has already passed away. Despite knowing that the other man killed a police officer, he still goes to treat the other man. Jordan, Paul's daughter, and his wife Lucy reside together. Jordan has just been accepted to the school of her dreams, and her parents are happy. Later, when the father of another girl starts screaming at the referee for making ridiculous calls, they take Jordan to one of her soccer games. When Paul tries to comfort him, the man becomes enraged and abuses Paul. The Kersey family and Frank, Paul's brother, eat lunch together. He begs Paul for a $2,000 loan so he may pay off a debt. Paul agrees unwillingly. Frank informs Miguel, the valet, as they leave that Paul has got the cash. While Miguel is going to fetch the Kersey's car, he snaps a photo of their address while they are driving. The family attempts to go out for a birthday dinner but is forced to postpone it. The following night, Paul is at work while Lucy and Jordan are dating. Shortly after starting to bake a cake, Lucy hears a sound. While Jordan is looking for an iPad upstairs, Lucy senses trouble. The women are being held captive by three masked intruders. Knox, the boss, gives Lucy the order to unlock their safe or they will harm Jordan. Lucy complies, and they leave from Jordan with Joe. As a result of Knox's orders, Fish, the third man, stops Joe when he attempts to rape Jordan. Joe thereafter develops lecherous tendencies. As Lucy and Knox arrive back, Jordan reaches for a knife and slashes Joe across the face. Jordan has a chance to flee as Lucy splashes Joe with boiling water, but two gunshots are soon heard. When Lucy and Jordan are taken to the hospital, Paul is informed. He learns that Lucy was no longer alive after prolonged surgery because Lucy's gunshot wounds were too severe. Jordan had blunt force damage, putting him in a coma. Detectives Kevin Raines and Leonore Jackson later meet with Paul to discuss the murder of Lucy. Paul joins Lucy's family at her funeral. Paul rides with Lucy's dad after the service. Poachers are in the neighborhood, and he sees them shooting a deer. The men flee as Lucy's father gets his weapon and begins to fire after them. After that, he kills the deer by shooting it in the head. Paul visits a therapist because he has been having difficulties sleeping and is upset by his loss. He goes for a stroll and comes across two goons intimidating a woman. The men approach Paul when he steps in and beat him up. Paul becomes interested in buying a firearm after seeing a TV advertisement for a gun store. He goes to the store and talks to Bethany, the spokeswoman, who explains the procedure he must follow in order to obtain a pistol. Another shooting victim is taken to the hospital, and when he does, the pistol comes out. Paul kicks it under the bed and somehow escapes detection while removing it. Later that evening, while wearing a hoodie, he goes out into the streets after practicing shooting. He witnesses a carjacking as two criminals beat up a man and drive off with his girlfriend. Paul fires a shot at the vehicle, causing it to crash and slashing his hand on the recoil. The other carjacker tries to pursue Paul before Paul shoots him dead because one of the carjackers is already dead. After speaking with a witness who had captured the incident on camera, Raines and Jackson arrive on the site hours later. Paul earns the moniker the Grim Reaper for acting as a vigilante when the video becomes public. Paul attends to a boy who was shot in the leg at work. The youngster explains to Paul that the street he was on is known as the Ice Cream Man's territory in the area. After discovering the street name, Paul searches for the Ice Cream Man. Before Paul loads into the Ice Cream Man, he identifies himself as his final customer. The response to this has been conflicted. Some people don't like the idea of a random individual enforcing justice on his own, while others approve of his pursuit of criminals. Miguel is brought in as yet another shooting victim. Paul recognizes him from a tattoo he's seen on him while he was at the eatery. Miguel loses his life as Paul shocks him with a defibrillator. Paul then takes Miguel's phone, uses his thumb to unlock it, and looks for the image of his address there. Additionally, He searches through his contacts and discovers that a pawn shop is selling every item that was taken from the safe. Paul stops by the pawn shop/bar and chats with Ponytail, the proprietor. Ponytail becomes suspicious after hearing Paul mention Miguel by name. Ponytail attempts to reach for his rifle, but Paul stabs him in the hand and compels him to lead him to his possessions. Ponytail also covertly communicates with another person. He leads Paul to the back where he can retrieve his belongings. Fish then appears and tries to shoot Paul, but Ponytail is killed in the process. Paul and Fish engage in gunshot exchanges until Fish is shot in the leg by Paul. Fish makes an attempt to get away with it by claiming that Joe was the one who killed Lucy. A loose bowling ball hits Fish in the head as he attempts to pursue Paul once more, causing him to stumble and accidentally shoot himself in the head. Paul visits Joe's workplace, a garage. He uses a wrench to strike him in the balls, knocking him unconscious as he hits his head against the car he's working on. Joe is then positioned below the car, which is supported by a crowbar. After severing Joe's leg, Paul tortures him by dousing it in brake fluid, which severely burns his leg. Joe acknowledges that Knox was the mastermind behind the entire scheme, but he is a difficult person to track down. Paul pulls a link that pulls the crowbar and causes the car to clumsily crush Joe's head after gathering all the information he needs. Finally, Jordan awakens in the hospital. Paul is compelled to inform her of her mother's fate. A news broadcast about a father of 3 who attempted to follow Paul's example and pursue a criminal in an alley and was fatally shot can be heard. Knox sends Paul a text message telling him to meet him at a club. When instructed to go to the restroom, Paul complies with the directive. Paul fires at what he believes to be a restroom stall, but no one is there. As a result, Knox is made aware of Paul's identity. Knox then shoots at Paul, but escapes. Frank discovers Paul's expanded arsenal. He confronts Paul about it, but Paul responds by saying that someone ought to avenge themselves. Knox returns to the house with 2 other thugs after Jordan goes back home. As Paul deals with them, Jordan hides in the closet. Knox shoots him in the shoulder after following him to the basement after he kills the 2 thugs. Knox overhears Jordan screaming before he can kill Paul. Paul pulls a massive rifle out of a compartment under a table and fills Knox up with lead while he is preoccupied. Jackson and Rains show up on the scene. Rains questions Paul about the guns as he speaks to him about what transpired. Despite the obvious inconsistency in Paul's explanation, Rains seems to be aware of what is going on and chooses to fabricate Knox's comeback as a result of Paul killing Knox first. Later, Paul delivers Jordan to the university. He sees a robbery victim as he exits the building. He calls to the man while making a fake gunshot with his finger. And this is the end of this movie. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for weekly updates of movie recaps like this. Comment what movie you want next. Thanks for watching.